Imagine that you sit down to take your official LSAT and you know you can tackle every single question type. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 little-known strategies that helped me raise my own LSAT score from a 152 to a 175 and have helped thousands of my students achieve similar leaps over the past 20 years. Whether you're aiming for a 170 plus or just hoping to feel calm and confident on test day, stick around. There's a bonus 11th tip at the end that most LSAT takers never consider, but it can make all the difference in your final score. First, for those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz. I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005, and I personally increased my own score from a 152 to a 175. Now, for those of you taking the LSAT going forward, your LSAT format will look different from the older versions you might see in study guides or even some prep courses. LSAC removed logic games entirely from the LSAT after the June 2024 LSAT, replacing them with the second scored logical reasoning section, which of course will affect everyone taking the LSAT in 2025 and beyond. On top of that, LSAC removed dozens of official LSAT practice tests from Law Hub with the logic games removal, dropping the official total number of exams from almost 100 down to only 58 numbered exams. And so, if you're serious about scoring in the 170s, you'll probably burn through these tests fast, but don't panic. The tips I'm about to share will help you study smarter, not just harder. Let's dive in. The first big strategy I'm going to share with you is redoing practice tests. I know it might sound counterintuitive that you redo tests you've already taken. Most people assume that once you've seen a practice test, it's used up and it can't help you anymore. They worry about inflated scores or spoilers. But here's the thing. Unless you've perfectly mastered that test, meaning you scored a 180 and understood every single question, you still have valuable insights to gain from that test. The LSAT is all about patterns and nuance. Questions that you got wrong, or even guessed on but got right the first time, can reveal deeper reasoning skills that you still need to sharpen. And with fewer official tests available from LSAC, redoing old LSATs becomes even more critical. You will run out of fresh LSAT practice tests if you're practicing diligently for a top score. And redoing tests fills in those gaps and maximizes every question's learning potential. The second big strategy I want to share with you is to master the Socratic review method, because if there's one skill that will help you squeeze every last point out of your study time, it's reviewing your mistakes thoroughly. Most students look at a mistake and say, oh, I misread it, and then they move on. But that's not enough. And that's why I developed the Socratic review method, which is a step-by-step framework to dissect the stimulus, the question stem, and each answer choice. When you're looking at the stimulus, you want to recognize whether you missed a crucial detail in the stimulus, the argument. Did you misunderstand the core conclusion? In the question stem, were you sure about what the question was asking, whether it was weaken, strengthen, necessary assumption, or so on? Or if your mistake stemmed from the answer choices, which choice was wrong and why? Which right answer did you dismiss too quickly and what ultimately makes it correct? You ask yourself targeted questions to pinpoint your exact misunderstanding. So by the time you finish reviewing, you not only know why you got a question wrong, but also how to avoid making that same mistake again. And this method is even more important now that there are 2 scored logical reasoning sections. Logical reasoning is 2/3 of the test, so it dominates your total score more than ever. If you can nail your review process, you'll see that 20-point jump happen faster. And because the review process is so important, we make the Socratic review method a cornerstone of our courses and private one-on-one coaching programs at LSAT Unplugged. We look at not just explaining the questions to you the way that a book would or the way that a video would, but we look at your thought process to look at where you're going wrong and why, so that you can avoid making the same mistakes again. If you'd like my support on your journey to 170 plus, mastering the review process to help you get that top score, you can check out the links below to find out more and to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, the third big strategy I want to share with you is to focus on the stimulus, not just the question stem. A lot of LSAT prep courses teach you to categorize LSAT questions by their question stem to say, oh, that's a strengthening question or that's a principal question. And while that can be somewhat helpful for drilling, it can also lead to a major blind spot. You might focus so much on what question type is this that you forget to deeply understand the stimulus itself. The reality is the question stem and the answer choices only make sense once you know exactly what the argument is saying. So ask yourself, what's the conclusion? What's the evidence? And how is the argument structured? For example, is it cause and effect, correlation, or something else entirely? The fact that the LSAT now has a second score logical reasoning section means you'll see even more arguments, each one with its own quirks. If you truly master reading the argument, questions type categories become less of a crutch, and you start to see the test maker's patterns. The fourth big strategy I want to share with you is around pacing to help you build up a time bank, because time is your most precious resource on the LSAT. With the standard 35-minute sections, you need a strategy to handle the increasingly tough questions that appear later in the section. And so for logical reasoning, I recommend finishing the first 10 questions in about 10 or 12 minutes. Those earlier questions are typically easier, so you can move through them more quickly. You then bank extra time for the tougher questions that come later. You also want to learn to ID and skip questions that are time sinks for you personally. For me, that might be a tough parallel question or a tough question on a dense scientific topic. What I do is I flag it and then keep going. And you'd be surprised how liberating it is to skip something that is draining your energy and then tackle it with a fresh perspective later. Just make sure that you do come back to it. And this approach makes sure that you capture the easy and medium level questions first, boosting your confidence and your score. And this approach makes sense because every question's work the same, so you don't want to get bogged down or stuck on any one question. Now, the fifth strategy I want to share with you is to condense your reading comp notes. Don't get bogged down outlining the entire passage in excruciating detail. I know that each passage is packed with dense language, unfamiliar topics, and plenty of chances for confusion, but highlighting every sentence or taking extensive notes is a huge waste of time and your mental bandwidth. So instead, skim for structure and the main idea, take minimal notes, if any, just noting key terms or pivotal points like the author's stance, and practice reading dense, difficult text on a screen. Remember that the test is fully online, of course, and so if you're used to reading things on a phone or skimming social media, you want to spend more time with academic or long-form reading, and tools like Spreeder and Phrase Reader can help you build up your screen reading endurance. Now, Reading Comp has 4 sets of passages with 7 to 8 questions each, and you have only about 8 minutes and 45 seconds per passage. So taking fewer notes might feel unnatural at first, but it'll let you move faster and stay more engaged with the questions. Now, the 6th strategy I want to share with you is around LawHub, taking practice tests officially from LSAT. I see a lot of students making the mistake of practicing with third-party tools that look and function differently from the actual LSAT platform. On test day, you're going to be using LSAT's LawHub interface delivered by Prometric. And the thing is, LawHub's highlighting and underlining tools can be clunky and glitchy and imprecise, and it's also a unique interface. The font style is unique. Even the color scheme might throw you off if you're used to a different interface, and so you don't want any surprises on test day, especially now with 2 logical reasoning sections where your mental focus is crucial. So you want to take at least 10 full-length timed practice tests directly on LSAT's LawHub platform. That way, you'll be fully prepared for the actual environment of the test, from the online layout to the button placement to the built-in timer. The 7th big strategy I want to share with you is around using mindfulness meditation to combat stress, because one of the biggest performance killers is test day anxiety. When your nerves flare up, your mind races, and you forget all the techniques you practiced. And so that's where mindfulness meditation comes in. I'm not talking about anything spiritual in nature, but just 5 minutes a day of focusing on your breath. When your mind wanders, and it will, you calmly bring it back to the inhalation-exhalation rhythm. Over time, you train your brain to stay present even under pressure. And on LSAT test day, if you find yourself panicking because you're stuck on a tough question, you'll be better prepared to reel your focus back in. You'll remember your pacing strategy, your insights from the Socratic review method, and you'll be able to systematically approach the problem instead of spiraling. The eighth big strategy here is around self-care, sleep, diet, and exercise, because high-level LSAT performance demands a high-functioning brain. If you're pulling all-nighters, living off caffeine, or never getting physical activity, you're at a disadvantage. So aim for ideally 7 to 8 hours a night of sleep consistently, incorporate brain-healthy foods, plenty of protein, and exercise. That doesn't mean running marathons, but even a daily walk or light yoga can sharpen your focus. If you can maintain consistency in these areas, compounded over weeks and months, by the time you sit for the LSAT, you're mentally and physically primed and ready to crush it. The ninth big strategy is to adopt the test maker's perspective, because far from being random, the LSAT is methodically designed to measure how you evaluate evidence, spot assumptions, and parse out flawed reasoning, which are skills you'll need in law school and beyond. So when you approach each question, ask yourself, what is the test maker trying to see if I can do? Are they testing if I can spot correlation versus causation? Are they checking if I can handle formal logic in a real-world scenario? Are they seeing if I can identify assumptions that strengthen or weaken an argument? When you see the exam through the lens of the test maker, it becomes less adversarial and more like a conversation about critical thinking. And that shift in perspective can skyrocket your motivation and make complex questions click faster. The 10th big strategy I'm going to share with you is to schedule your test time as soon as possible. And stay tuned after this one, because there's going to be an 11th bonus one. After you register for an LSAT administration, you can't pick your exact testing time until LSAT and Prometric open up scheduling just a few weeks before test day. And time slots fill up fast. I've seen students get stuck with a 9 a.m. slot or a late evening slot that totally clashes with their sleep schedule. And that's bad news if you're not a morning person or if you have obligations late in the day. So keep an eye out for the email from LSAC that scheduling is open, then log in ASAP and grab the best possible time for your energy levels and your routine. Remember that you've put in months of study time, countless hours. Don't let poor scheduling sabotage you on the day that matters the most. Now here's the bonus tip. It's to explore extra time accommodations. If you have ADHD, testing anxiety, or any other condition that might qualify you for extra time or special accommodations, apply for them. LSAC used to be notoriously strict, but after several lawsuits and federal scrutiny, they've become far more lenient. You could get time and a half or even double time. You might get permission for extra breaks, a private room, or even certain medical devices. And so if you suspect that you qualify, it is worth the effort. Remember, the standard 35-minute timing per section is tight. Having extra time could be the difference between a 160 and a 170 plus, and this is no small thing. Every year, I see students discover that they were eligible for accommodations, but hadn't bothered to apply on their first go at it. So don't miss out on that advantage if you genuinely believe that you need it. Now, if you want to go deeper, if you'd like my support aiming for a 170 plus, or if you need personalized guidance on your journey to achieving your fullest potential, you could check out the links below to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you apply the strategies I shared today to your unique situation, making sure you get the highest possible LSAT score. Again, links below. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.